there is absolutely nothing wrong with being sensitive. And I don't think you have to defend yourself. I support you in that. I think women spend a lot of time asking men to be sensitive and kind.
If you're a child of the 80s, there's no doubt that you remember New Edition. And on the end, in the white t-shirt, you see Ralph Transvant. And he was the lead singer of the group. And so when they all went their separate ways, he had his first smash single where he told gentlemen he can be a man with... For many people of my age, Ralph Transvant represented a turn in that he was one of the first sources that began to tell young men, and in this case, young black men, it's okay to be sensitive. And in fact, getting in touch with your sensitive side was going to help you do better with women. And the messages for being a sensitive man have been bombarded on young men as such.
Do women really want what's called a sensitive man?
I believe that real men are very sensitive. They are very capable of doing things which can be violent if possible or necessary. But at the same time, they are incredibly capable of love and caring.
Women can only love you as much as you've loved yourself. And so if you are a sensitive male, what that looks like for you is actually first getting in touch with your sensitivity. No, that will not make you feminine.
Stuff in this day and age.
Get sensitive, but we are loving and caring people.
Mr. Bahati, there is absolutely nothing wrong with being sensitive.
It was like a lot of women would want a sensitive man in theory, but not in practice. So you say, I want you to be more in touch with your feelings. Then you bring the feelings and someone's like, hey, what are those, man?
You know, I've done everything to be just the kind of guy that would value somebody's time. Like, I'm just looking for my person. I'm just looking for the one that I guess is out there for me.
You can hear the one side of the advice that's telling young men more than ever before, get in touch with your sensual side, get in touch with your feelings and emotions, and women will appreciate that. And on the other side, you get a more traditionally masculine type of advice coming from Mr. Let Go.
You sound like a woman. Put some bass in your voice, sir. So let's list the feminine qualities that you are exhibiting, and most likely were exhibiting while y'all were on the phone. And the reason why she stood you up. 1, no bass in your voice. You sound like a woman. 2, you sound defeated. Men don't get defeated. We fall off the bike and get back on the bike and keep going.
So far, the advice that I hear is in line with traditional masculinity.
We never get defeated because that's a part of the game. So for you to be this 35-year-old man or whatever you are, sitting in a restaurant with flowers, sounding like a girl, being defeated, you're a woman, sir.
Now, this is the first part where there's a problem, because if you have been socializing young men or young boys to say you need to be in touch with your emotional side, you're supposed to do things like be sensitive, listen, bring flowers on a date, and do things of that nature. And so you can see the kind of difficulty that many young men may be running into, where they've been told, I'm supposed to do A, but when I try A, it doesn't seem to work. And then on the other side, they're saying if I do A, I'm acting like a girl. And it's very confusing.
Next, what man gets on social media whining about somebody standing you up?
A man who has been taught to be in touch with his emotions.
You don't think that's something a woman would do? What man does that?
In the black community, we place a disproportionate amount of quote unquote manhood on a man's ability to attract and have success with the opposite sex. And so many dating coaches build many careers, or have built many careers, around telling men, if you're not having success, that is a you issue. So of course, the payoff pitch.
The majority of black men walking around are like you. They're probably not as bad as you, but they're socially awkward. They're whiny. They get defeated. They be wanting to give up, and they don't have bass in their voice. Sir, Go get some therapy with a black man and sit down in front of him. Go get some friends, some masculine friends. Because most likely your friends, if you do have friends, are other cornballs. And I don't apologize for calling this man a cornball, because this is what women have to deal with.
I'll end by saying that I don't have any direct issues with Mr. Let Go, but you can see that his point of view is a bit tethered to his experience in that he's a more select male than probably average for a lot of black men in the black community. One commenter says, get your passport and your dating trauma days will end. And he responds with, a cornball is a cornball anywhere they go. And look, there's a place for game. I admit that part. But I will also say that you can see something on another side of the internet where Gabrielle Sidibe posts this picture and it sends the internet in a wave where people are saying, wow, she has her man and he is not just a good man, but he's emotionally available. He's sensitive. She captions this video, I didn't feel like cooking, so we decided to eat out. And many of black women saw this and loved it. This is Gabrielle Sidibe in an interview explaining her dating situation when she met her now husband and the qualities her now husband has that makes him a good husband.
He's such an incredible partner where like anything going on in my life, I'm like, okay, I'm having trouble with this. And I'll just, sort of vent to him. And before I'm done venting, he's already Googled the solution or like Googled what is wrong or whatever. Like he's always thinking. He's so kind. He's so kind to me. And he's kind in general. He's just a really good person. And it's the easiest relationship I've ever been in. And I kind of felt like this was different. And because when I met him, I was on, I was trying to have a hoe phase. And
yes, I remember.
Yeah. It's what I wanted.
I do.
But
we all did, darling. We all had them and we all wanted them. Okay, go on. Yes.
I just wanted one more hoe phase, just one more. But I realized after spending, I think I spent like a few days with him, maybe a few weeks or so, I realized I like who I was when I was with him.
2 points. First, I think Gabrielle Sidibe's husband and the gentleman that was in the restaurant are essentially at heart the same person. The guy that we heard that was on the TikTok talking about he's wanting to find his person, I could see him Googling how to find the thing to make his partner happy. Now, the issue, I believe, is that it's the packaging that matters more than the sensitivity. And that's the part that a lot of young guys are not being told, and that's making things difficult for many of them. The second thing I noticed is that, and she mentioned it twice, is she's talking about going through multiple phases. And this is a luxury that's afforded to one half of the sexual mating groups, and for the other half is awarded to a smaller and smaller group as we deal with the digital era and the repercussions of it. And so even in her situation, she has the ability to sow her oats, while many men who are going longer and longer without any kind of intimacy are seeing it become much more difficult. And is probably one of the factors leading to some of the terrible outcomes that we're seeing young men encounter in the West. Per the United States News and World Report, February 13, 2023, deletions rise again in the US, increases highest among minorities. The rate among black people has increased from 19.2% between 2018 and 2021, from 7.3 to 8.7 per 100,000, and it climbed most quickly among black people ages 10 to 24 at 36.6%. We tend to lose older generations of whites when it comes to this, he said, but among people of color, it's always the young, not out of the fourth, third, or even approaching the fifth decade of life. Rates rose 5% overall in people ages 25 to 44, and by even more among Black, Hispanic, multiracial, and Alaskan Native people. Now, looking at the numbers further, and this is from the Houston Defender, I believe, researchers sound the alarm over rising Black male. This is from March 2023. And this is a slideshow from the state of Maryland. In 2014, 80% of the passings in the Black community from this were from men. Self-reported attempts for Black adolescents rose 73% between 1991 and 2017. Black boys increasingly likely to attempt deletion. Although it's not prudent for me to correlate the rise in more and more young adolescent, and in this case male young men, to choosing not to be on planet Earth anymore, and the well-documented number of young men who are increasingly having more difficulty getting access to intimacy in relationships, what must be noted is that for many young men, if the prospect of always being an outsider, never being good enough to be chosen as a mate is your baseline for the first 20, 25, 30 years of your life, and you're being told on one end, women want men who are emotionally available, and on the other end, you're hearing, you need to buck up, where's all this emotionality coming from? You're a beta male. For many guys, they're just getting crushed in between those two sets of expectations. And if you're a guy who doesn't fit the attraction floor that can be screened on a dating filter, like 6 foot tall, certain color eyes, certain racial preference, you're not even making the cut on a dating app. And so for a growing number of young men who just don't see any opportunity at romantic relationship, I personally feel a bit of obligation to suggest becoming a passport bro, because at least you will have an opportunity to date someone who's not putting their baseline level at 6 foot tall, in shape, 100K earner, and they'll settle for someone that's 75% of those things, because simply put, most of the world isn't that. And so most of the women in the world know better than to hold out for that. And so for men, especially black men that are having trouble being non-select guys, I think it's prudent to recommend going overseas and having an opportunity or just a chance at someone loving you for who you are. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below, and I'll catch you guys next video. Take care, guys.